Hello beautiful people, welcome back to my channel. I'm Ifoma. So today we are going to be making this beautiful corset gown with a side gather and a strap at the shoulder. So if this is what you are interested in, definitely keep on watching. I'm just going to quickly go about the basic body so that we can start drafting out the corset from it, right? So I'm going to work on the front. This is the front and this is going to be the back. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and label all these basic bodies measurements I've taken. This is the bust line. I'll label it BL. This is the waistline. This is the hip line and the full length. Okay, so after I've achieved this, I'm going to go ahead now and start working on the front. Okay, so this is the shoulder line. I should have labeled it also. I'm supposed to have drawn a line here, but because I wanted to see if this is going to be enough for the length of this gown, I did not draw any line there. Okay, so this is going to be my shoulder line. So from there, I'm just marking the basic neckline for a basic bodice, which is 3 by 3 inches. Okay, so after marking this, I'm going to go ahead now and connect these two dots. So just like we do all the time, I'm going to divide my shoulder measurement and put whatever we have. I'm going to divide the shoulder measurement by 2, and then this is what we have, right? I'm going to come down there by 1 inch. Okay, so having gotten that, I'm just going to connect this dot to the tip of the neckline. Okay, so the next thing is my armhole depth, which we get by dividing our bust by 2, dividing our bust by 6 and adding 1.5 inches. Okay, so when I've gotten that, I'm just going to draw a line across, and that is going to be my chest line. So I'm extending that chest line to the back as well. Okay, so I'll just label this the CL, which means the chest line. Okay, so having gotten this, I'm also going to draw a straight line across. I'm going to take a measurement for our half shoulder, and I'm also going to connect this dot with the straight line. Okay, so having gotten this, the next thing we are going to do is to get our shoulder depth. Okay, so to do that, we are going to divide our bust by 4, and whatever we have, we are going to place that here, and then we are going to connect these dots. The first thing we are going to do before we connect the dots is to divide this place by 2. Okay, so when we have divided by 2, whatever we have, we are going to make a mark there and come in by 0.5 inches. Okay, so after doing that, we are going to connect these dots, and these dots together. That will give us our armhole curve. So we really don't need this part, but we're just drafting it out so we better understand. Okay, so I'm going to do the exact same thing for the back. This is the neckline. I'm going to take the neck, which is 1 inch in depth and 3 inches in width. Okay, so this is for the back neck, because you know the back neck and the front neck is not the same, right? So I'm just going to connect. Right, so I'm going to take our shoulder measurement and divide it by 2 as well, and then on this line I'm going to come down by 1 inch. All right, so I'm going to connect this to the tip of the neck. All right, so when we have achieved this, I'm going to take this measurement, whatever we have here today, I'm going to repeat it here just so we get a straight line, and I'm just going to connect it like this. Right, I'll go ahead to impute my bust measurement divided by 4 here, and then get our shoulder curve. Right, so this is what we have. This is the front and this is the back. Let me just go ahead and label it. Front and back. Okay, so this is what we have. This is the front and the back. I'm going to go ahead now and start working on the darts. Okay, so on the hip line and on the waist and on the bust line, I'm going to divide my bust measurement, nipple to nipple measurement by 2, and whatever we have, we are going to repeat it on the bust line, on the hip line, and on the waist line as well. So this is what we have. Right, so having gotten this, we're just going to connect all these lines with a straight rule. Okay, so the next thing we are going to do is to take our dart. Okay, so on the waistline we are going to go in and out by half of an inch, right? And on the hip line we are going to come up by 3 inches from the hip line. Okay, remember that this is our hip line. We are going to come up by 3 inches, and on the bust line we are going to come down by 1 inch. All right, so having gotten this, we are going to connect all these darts. After we have achieved this, we are going to go ahead and do the same thing for the back. Okay, we are going to input our nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2 on the waistline, on the bust line, on the chest line this time around, because this is the back part, and then also on the hip line. Okay, so having done that, I'm going to connect all these dots. Right, so having gotten this, we are going to take our dart just like we did for the front. We are going to take our dart from the waistline, okay, and we are going to go in and out of the waistline by half of an inch. All right, so on the hip line we are going to come up as well by 3 inches, and then we are not coming down from the bust line by 3 inches this time around. Okay, so what we are going to do, we are going to connect this dart all the way straight to the chest line. So having gotten this, the next thing we are going to do is on the waistline for the back, we are going to try to get our center back slant. Okay, because if you don't do it, you are going to find out that after fixing your zip will bulge out. Okay, so to avoid that bulging, we are going to go in by half of an inch on the waistline. Okay, and from there we are going to connect it straight to somewhere between the neckline and the chest line. Okay, and then on the waistline we are also going to connect it 3 inches above the hip line as well. Okay, so this is what we have for the center back. Okay, so let me just label it the CB, which is the center back, and this one the CF, which is the center front. Okay, having gotten this, we are going to go ahead now and draft our corset. Okay, so first for the back, I'm going to come down from the tip of the neck for the back to 9 inches, from the tip of the neck, from the depth of the neck to 9 inches. Okay, and from there I'm going to connect it to the armhole, because this dress do not have a yoke. Okay, I'm going to make this more visible later with my marker. Okay, so for the front, what we are going to do is, first of all, we are going to take from our shoulder to our under bust. So my shoulder to my under bust is 14.5, but because if anytime I'm making a corset, I'm always removing 0.5 inches from the under bust. Okay, so I'm going to mark 14 inches instead. Okay, so let me just extend this line a little bit. All right, so from this line now, I'm going to take my dart from wherever the dart is, because we already have that here. From this place now that we already have a dart, I'm going to go out by 0.5 inches on both sides. Okay, now we're not taking it from this center line, we're taking it from the line that we already took before, 0.5 inches in and out. Okay, so when we have done that, so before we connect that to the waistline, we are also going to come out on the waistline by 0.2 inches on both sides. Okay, so when I've gotten this, I'm going to go ahead now and connect from this dart from the under bust straight to the new one we have on the waistline, and then from there we are going to connect it back to the one we have on the hip line. Okay, so having gotten this, the next thing we are going to do is, depending on how deep you want your center front to be on the corset, on the chest line I'm coming down by 1 inch. Okay, and I'm going in, depending on how wide you want the center of your corset to be, I'm going in by half of an inch. Okay, so this is what I have here. All right, so having gotten this, the next thing I'm going to do now is to connect this dot to this place, this one to this place as well. That is for the dart. Okay, so when I've gotten this, I'm going to divide my shoulder line from here to here. I'm going to divide it into two, and whatever I have, I'm going to make a point there. Okay, so from here I'm going to connect this point to the point on the bust line. Okay, remember that this is the bust line that we connected from here to the bust line. Okay, so on the chest line, like we normally do, you decide how covered your corset is going to be. For this one, I decided to come up by half of an inch. Okay, you can decide to come up by 1 inch if that's what you want. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure here. Whatever I have here, what I have here is 1.2, what I have here is 1 point. So I'm going to give half going to this side, and then I'm going to give 6/8 to the part going to the other side. Okay, so that's when I measure it, it's going to give me 1.2 inches. All right, so I hope you understand this. I'm just making a line across to connect these two dots. Okay, so having gotten this, what I'm going to do is to avoid gaping, I'm going to, from this new point, I'm going to go out by quarter of an inch, which is 0.2 inches. I'm going to do the same for this side as well. Then from here I'm going to connect to the bust line. All right, so I'm connecting from the 0.2 inches we went out from our dart. I'm connecting it from there to the bust point. All right, so having gotten this, the next thing we are going to do is to take our measurement from here to here. Okay, whatever we have from here to here, we are going to use it and make a round circle round our bust point, starting from our bust point round. So what I have from here to here is 3 inches. I'm going to go round with that 3 inches. So having gotten this is the line, this is a circle now that we've made. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, from that dot, that is why I said that this is going to be a guide, right? So from this dot now, I'm going to connect the top of my corset to this 0.5 inches I went in with my curve. Okay, so this is it, and then I'm going to connect this part as well. Okay, so this is what I have. All right, I'm going to divide whatever I have here, this point and this point, I'm going to divide it into two. Whatever I have here, so this is what I have. Okay, so on that point I'm going to come down by 1.5. Okay, so from there I'm going to connect. From there I'm going to connect this second side of the corset. Okay, and I'm going to connect it back to the under bust. Right, so this is what we have. Having gotten this, we're just going to go ahead and impute our measurement. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing for both the back and the front of this dart. Okay, so but before we take the measurement for the back, what I like doing is I like tightening the back a little bit. So what I do is I go out with by 0.2 inches on both sides of our darts. Okay, we're taking it from both sides of this initial dart we already have, and I'm just going to connect it back to the waist dart. This is just to give more tightening for the back. Alright, so this is what I have for the back. So I'm just going to finish up this. Okay, so when we are done shaping it, this is what it looks like when we are done shaping it. Okay, so for the details at the side, what I'm going to do is on the shaping side, I'm going to come down by 3 inches from my waistline. Okay, I'm going to drop my waistline by 3 inches both for the front and the back. Remember, we have not added any sewing allowance to this pattern. Okay, so from there, in the center, from the center front, I'm going to come in by 3 inches. All right, I'm also going to do the same thing for the back. Come in by 3 inches. Then I'm just going to connect this line straight to that 3 inches that we came in by. Okay, and on our darts, we are just going to come up on the dart line by half of an inch. Okay, so this depends on what you want. There is no manual for how you are going to do yours. Okay, so this depends on what you want. I'm just going to drop it like this. Okay, so I'm going to do the exact same thing for the back as well. Right, so this is what we have. From there, I'm not going to extend it with a straight line down to the hem of this paper. Right, I'm going to do the same thing for the back as well. I'm going to extend this line down to the hem. Okay, so this is what we have. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and cut all this out. But first of all, let me make it a little bit visible with my marker. So this is what we have. I'm going to go ahead now and cut out. So I'm just going to label this so I know that this is for the back. Okay, I'm also going to put arrow so I know how it is placed. Okay, when I am making this. So this paper is not actually up the length that I want. So whenever I'm sewing it to the actual, when I'm cutting it to the actual fabric, I am going to complete the measurements. Okay, so this is the front, this is the back. I'm just going to place this aside. I'm just going to label this 1 back, 2 back. Okay, so we are going to pin this together because this is going to be one piece. Remember, what we are doing is a 3-piece corset. Okay, so we are going to have these upper parts to be one piece. I'm just taping it together so I can cut it out on another paper. Okay, so this is what we have. I'm going to introduce another paper so that I can cut it on another paper. So on the side, I'm coming down by 2 inches. On the center, I'm coming down by 2 inches as well. This is what I want for this corset. and I'm just going to connect with my cord. When I've gotten this, I'm going to 1, 2, and 3. Okay. Always label. Labeling is very, very important. So I'm just going to trace this one out on another paper like this. Okay. So here we have one piece. Okay, so this is our top. This is the front part of our corset, and this is the back part. And these are the sides. Okay. So this is what it looks like. So here, to start cutting on our archer fabric, I folded my archer fabric in a bias form. Okay, so this is a bias form. This is because I want this gather to be in the form of a flake. Okay, so I drew a line across in the midpoint. This is just indicating where the back and the front starts. Okay, so I also drew a straight line here. This is just the guide for this gather. Okay, so I also drew a line across my pattern paper showing the slash and spread method that I'm going to use. So if you want to increase the lines you draw, just know that the more you increase it, the more full the flare is going to be. So but I don't want mine to be that very, very full. That is why I ended mine at 3. Okay, so here just do whatever you want to do. Okay, so I just lashed it and I'm just going to place it. Okay, so I'm placing it, leaving 0.5 inches on top. Remember that line that I drew that I told you was going to be a guide to this cotton. I'm just placing it 5 inches below that line. Okay, so this is what I have. I'm going to go ahead and add 5 inches to this because I told you that when I was drafting the pattern paper was not enough. Okay, so I'm adding 5 inches to this. So I just added 5 inches. I'm going to go ahead now and cut this out. So here I'm just going to go ahead and cut this line in between the front and the back. Okay, so this is because this cloth has a pocket, an inner pocket. All right, so but if yours is not going to have an inner pocket, don't cut it open. I placed a double notch on the front and just a single notch on the back. This is to indicate where the joining is going to be at the side. So I'm opening this place up. This is going to be for the back. Okay, so this is it. This is just it for the gather at the side. Cut the front. What I did was I folded my fabric into 2 and then I placed all the pattern. Alright, so on all the sides I added 0.5 inches round. Then on the shaping side I added 1.5 inches. That is half inches for the turning of the lining and then 1 inch for the shaping of the clothes. Okay, so for the length I also added 5 inches like I did for the gather, just to complete the length of my dress. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead now and cut it out. So this is what it looks like. So I'm going to do the same thing for the back. The back I'm going to add 1 inch for the zip allowance. Okay, So I'm going to go ahead and cut the back. Alright, so I went ahead to cut out all the pieces. I cut out on my actual fabric and also on the lining, okay, and I also went ahead to interface it. Alright, so when I was cutting, like I said before, I added 0.5 inches all around the this one is the center front and this one is the center back. Okay, so when I was cutting at center back, I added 0.5 inches all around. Then on the zip side, I added 1 inch for the zip allowance. Okay, on the this one is the side front, I also added 0.5 inches all around, and then on the shaping side, I added 1.5 inches for the shaping. Okay, and then for the side back as well. All right, so this is the cup. Already went ahead to cut out my foam pad that I'm going to be using as the cup. Okay, and when I was cutting out on my actual fabric for the cup, I cut out in 4 places because I also want to use the same fabric as the lining. All right, so this is everything I have. This is all the cups. I cut everything into 4 places, and then 1 for the lining and 1 for the actual clothes. Okay, so we are going to go ahead now and start joining all these pieces together. To start joining, I'm going to go ahead to start by joining the front. This is the center front. Okay, so I'm going to join the side front. This is the side front. All right, so I'm going to join the side front to the center front. Okay, so whatever I'm doing, I'm joining with 0.5 inches. Remember, whenever you are making anything, don't let your zip allowance exceed 0.5 inches. I mean, don't let your sewing allowance exceed 0.5 inches. Sewing allowance, not zip allowance, sorry. So I'm going to join this using 0.5 inches. I'm going to join this other side as well. Okay, using 0.5 inches. So I'm also going to go ahead and join the lining as well. All right, so when I'm done with the front, I'm going to go ahead and join the back as well. All right, so this is the back, this is the center back, and this is the side back. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and join like this. This is how it's supposed to be, right? So I'm going to go ahead and join the back using 0.5 inches as well. Okay, this is the center back. So I'm going to do the same thing to the lining as well, to all the pieces of the back, to all the pieces of the front. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead to my sewing machine now and do that. So after joining it, I'm going to go ahead. This is what it looks like after I was done joining all the parts. I'm done joining all the parts here. So what I'm going to go ahead to do now is I'm going to go ahead and press it open. I'm going to go ahead and start pressing it open, right, like this. I'm going to do both the lining and the actual fabric. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead now, press all these parts, just press everything open and make sure they are laying flat on the underside, other side. Alright, so when I was done ironing this is what it looks like. I ironed it very flat, both the lining and the actual fabric. Okay, so I'm going to set the actual fabric aside. Right, I'm going to set it aside, and then we'll attach our boning to the lining. Okay, because this boning is going to be in our lining. Okay, so I've gone ahead to cut out my boning, and I taped the tape. This is the sewable bone. I use my invisible tape. You can use any tape of your choice to tape the tip. That is to reduce the sharpness and not make it pointy. Okay, so I tape the tip, and I'm going to go ahead now and just attach this bone to my lining. All right, so this is sewable bone. I'm going to sew it on the both side. Okay, so when you are cutting your bone, endeavor that you leave at least 0.5 inches on the top and on the bottom when you're measuring it, so that you can just go ahead and sew from that 0.5 inch and stop at the other 0.5 inch. Okay, that is your sewing allowance, remember. So I'm going to go ahead now and attach my boning in all the joinings in both the front and the back lining. I'm going to go ahead now and attach my bone. So when I was done adding my boning, this is what it looks like. Okay, so I went ahead and joined my boning for the front and the back. So the next thing I'm going to do now is you're going to go ahead and shape this. I'm going to shape the lining separately, and I'll shape the main fabric separately as well. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead now and shape these two sides. Remember that this is the center back. Okay, so I'm going to shape the two sides. All right, I'm going to go ahead and also do the same thing for the main fabric as well. I'm going to shape the two sides. All right, so I'm going to go ahead now and do that. So this is what it looks like when I was done shaping it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead now and turn this with the lining. Okay, so this is the actual fabric and this is the lining. Okay, so I'm going to turn the two of them wrong side facing each other. I'm going to turn the center back. Right, so when I was cutting the lining, I made it a little bit shorter on the down part, so I'm going to fold this part, right, and then I'm going to turn the center back. I'm going to tuck the top here. I'm going to skip this cup. I'm not turning this cup, this depth of this cup. I'm going to turn the center here. This is the center front, right? I'm going to turn the side as well, and then the center back for the other side. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead now and do just that. All right, note that we are not turning the depth of the cup, and we are not turning this side because we are adding our gather here. Okay, we're not turning this side, we're only turning the center back, the upper part, the center front, which is only here, the upper part, and the other side of the center back as well. After I was done turning it and pressing it, this is what it looks like. All right, so we are going to set this part aside and work on the cup. All right, so this is the cup. I'm going to go ahead now and join all the sides of the cup. All right, so this I'm going to join this one. So endeavor you always label your cup. All right, so this is how this cup is going to look. All right, this is how this cup is going to look. This is the second one. So this is 1, 2, 3. All right, so I'm going to first of all join this one. I'm going to use my zigzag though. I'm going to first of all join this one, then join it to the third part. All right, so I'm going to do the same thing for all the sides of the cup. We already know how to join a cup. So but if you don't, I'm going to link a video where I went on to explain this very well. I'm going to link the video down in the description box below, so go check out that video. You are going to understand it better. But to avoid this video getting long, I'm going to go ahead now and join all the pieces together. So here I went ahead to join the cup, and I have also attached the foam. Okay, this is the important of labeling. Remember that this is number 1, and that one I purposely marked it on this side, so I know that this one is the one that's going to be on top of this one, right? So this is it. I've joined my everything. This is both the lining, this is the lining, and this is the actual cup. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to use this lining and turn this cup. And when I'm turning it, I'm going to make sure that it's the right one. Okay, so I'm going to turn it right side facing each other. So this is the second one, this is number 2, and this is number 2 as well. Okay, so I'm going to turn it only at the top here using 0.5 inches. Okay, and while I'm turning it, I'm going to attach this. So I cut this into 4 places because I want to, this is going to be the hand, I want to be tying it over at my shoulder. So that is why I cut 4 straps of this. Okay, so I'm going to place 2 aside as I'm going to be attaching it to the back, and while I'm joining this, I'm going to place this like this. Okay, I'm going to place it at the number 3 part. Okay, so I'm going to place it at the number 3 part, and I'm going to sew this over it. All right, so I hope you understand this, but I'm going to measure it to be sure that it's rightly placed. Okay, I'm going to do the exact same thing for this side, other side of the cup, and as well I'm going to turn it with the lining as well. So this is what it looks like after I was done turning it. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead now and place this cup like this using 0.5 inches and just attach this cup to this cup depth. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing for the other side. I'm going to attach the cup there. All right, so here we are done fixing the cup. I'm just going to set this aside and work on the gather. Remember there is a gather at the down part of this dress. All right, so when we are cutting this, remember we double notched on the parts going to the front. So this is the front, okay, with the double notches. Can you see? So this is it. I'm going to go ahead and join one side of the front to one side of the back. Okay, so this is how it's going to be. One side of the front to one side of the back. So the front is the part that has the double notch, and the back is this part. Okay, so I'm going to make, remember that we actually cut this open because it has a pocket. So from the upper part, this is the upper side, I'm going to come down by 1 inch, and from there I'm going to measure out our pocket, which is 7 inches. Okay, then I'm going to shape it down. I'm going to do the same thing for the other side. Okay, so when I am done shaping it, I'm going to go ahead and gather it. I'm going to sew a gather sewing here, a gather stitches, so I can gather it and attach it to the down of my dress. Okay, so I'm just going to do that to the both side, attach it, and this dress is ready. I'm also going to go ahead on the back side and attach the strap as well. Okay, so when we get back, we show us what it looks like. So guys, this is what it looks like after we are done fixing in the gather at the side and also fixing in our zipper at the back. Okay, so if you are still watching at this part, thank you very much for sticking by. Also hit the subscribe button if you are yet to subscribe. Turn on the notification bell. Okay, so if this video helped you in any way, please give this video a thumbs up so it can get to any other person who might be interested in watching this video. All right, so do remember to leave a comment on the comment section if you are going to try this out, or maybe you have a request of something you want us to work on. Okay, so I will see you guys next time. Bye bye.